So today we'll look at this video, which is, I think it's a debate or a discussion between Yanis Varoufakis and team. Wait a minute. I just practiced this, but I forgot. I'll look at this video again. Oh, I think you can't listen to the audio, right?
I don't hear anything yet.
Okay, I'll share it again.
We are looking at how to
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay.
pronounce what is effectively the most common Vietnamese name, a very common name now found all around the world that has its origin in Vietnam. But how do you go about pronouncing it? Nguyen. Nguyen.
Okay, so that's how it's pronounced. So Team Nguyen and Yanis Varoufakis. These are the two people who will be, which is what this discussion is about. So a little bit about before we start looking at it, so let's just briefly within 2 minutes get to know about who these two persons are and what this debate is all about. So here it says, see, I already know who Yanis Varoufakis is, but Team Nguyen, I'm hearing about him for the first time here. So here it says, Yanis Varoufakis is a world-renowned economist, academic, and a politician. His latest book is Techno-Feudalism. And I think we previously talked about, not in details, but briefly I mentioned about techno-feudalism. So that's what this is. And Timothy is a leading AI researcher at Google DeepMind. Okay. And yeah, this is what Yanis is. He's also a former Minister of Finance of Greece. And that's what he is. And his main stance, from what I've heard about him so far by watching his videos and all of this, is that he speaks critically about the big tech companies, about how they have too much power and they use their power for surveillance and control and those sort of things. And he also speaks critically about the Western government and power as well. It doesn't mean that he supports the Eastern China or anything. He doesn't. But he also says that the West, they portray themselves as a democratic, free society, but they are not as free as they portray. That's what Yanis is all about. And team is something I just got to I found about him while watching this video. And in fact, I just watched 3 to 4 minutes of this video previously. I haven't watched the full video yet. So this will be my first time too. But again, Team also has his own YouTube channel. So here he says that he's a mathematician who previously worked on gauge theory, but now he works on deep learning. So as if he works at DeepMind. So clearly in terms of mathematics and AI, he's definitely a very brilliant person, because since he's working as a researcher in DeepMind, so definitely it seems like he's a very accomplished person. So that's a bit of background about those two things, those two people. So now let's just look at what this talk is all about, and then we can discuss about it.
So we can, for example, look at, say, China, which unfortunately uses its technology to do mass surveillance and suppress dissenting views and information.
And like every 3-4 minutes or 5 minutes, I'll keep pausing and just will speak our comments about what you think so far. Okay, so I'll start again.
So we can, for example, look at, say, China, which unfortunately uses its technology to do mass surveillance and suppress dissenting views and information.
Whereas in the West, we don't have mass surveillance.
Oh, no, I was going to
You're surveying the shit out of
my
it.
next line was the West, of course.
Come on. A little bit of
I was trying to be inclusive.
self-awareness here.
East and
You
West.
know, Google is surveying us just as successfully as, the Chinese Communist Party.
Are we in control of big tech, or is big tech in control of us?
From time immemorial, the human condition has been marked with a tragedy, the tragedy of our relationship with technology, and the wild beauty of it. All those machines, from Talos to Frankenstein to the invisible hand, fill our hearts with horror that maybe they're taking over, maybe they're failing badly, maybe we are victims of it. This is not a new problem. What is new, and this is where I want to concentrate, is that unbeknownst to people like Tim, who are doing very interesting work in Silicon Valley, in Shenzhen, wherever those big tech companies are located, as I said, unbeknownst to them, they have invented a new form of capital. You see, capital predates capitalism by tens of thousands of years. From the first moment that we created a tool is a produced means of production. So you create a plow, not because you want it, but because you want to use it in order to produce corn. That's what capital is. The steam engine was produced to produce textiles. For the first time, these folks, and I point at him because he's on the pan, they've created a mutant form of capital, because what lives in these phones and tablets is not a produced means of production. It is that as well when it helps operate machinery. But in the social media, in what we mean daily by big tech, it produces an exorbitant power to modify our behavior. For the first time in human history, our behavior is not modified only by poets, novelists, politicians, vicars, and so on, but it is modified directly by produced means, by machines. That is what I am particularly concerned with, has already usurped, overturned what we knew as capitalism, has replaced markets with fiefdoms, and it has put in train a process by which we face a clear and present danger of total social failure, total economic fragmentation. It's not the fault of the machinery, it's not the fault of the algorithms. It is our incapacity to reshape our social relations, the way we relate with one another, our relations of power with one another, so that we can make good use of the machines rather than become victims.
So I think
Okay,
an absolute statement that
Yeah.
So, like, he gives an example first by talking about something called like the original form of capital. He says the produced, what did he say? Produced means of production.
Yeah.
So, what does it mean?
I don't know what produced means or production means, but
Like, he gave the
So-
example of a plow,
yeah.
and he's saying that is the original form of capital, and big tech has given rise to a mutated form of capital. So I'm not sure what he means by these two things. So for example, he said produce means of production as a plow, which is like it can be used, that production, like the plow is used to create more goods.
Yes.
That was the intention behind the creation of a plow.
Mm.
But here, then, like, what is this example is giving? I'm not able to understand exactly clearly.
So I can't speak about directly what he's saying in this example, but in general, what he has told is that big tech has replaced traditional capitalism in the sense that so capitalism in a way is free market capitalism is about competition. Like you all have we all have access to the same market. For example, if you are selling something, if you and I are selling the same thing, we have access to the same market, we can compete, and we will win based on our capacity about which one is which or yours or mine, whose product is better. But big tech has a sort of control over the markets itself. Like for example, Amazon. Like Amazon is the marketplace. So it doesn't matter. Like oh, it will win. Whoever is the seller or buyer, they will compete among themselves. But Amazon will win. They will get their job done. So that's the amount of control that they have. And since they have the control, they have the power to suggest the products because the algorithm is with them. So that's the kind of control that they have. I think so. That's what he's trying to say.
Okay, and but this problem will not be exclusive to just big tech. Like it will be it applies to any kind of monopoly. If you are in a position of monopoly, you have control over the market, so you can dictate how you want the rest of the market
Yeah.
to follow.
Yes, that is true. I think that is true. Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
I think that is where he's talking about the mutated capital, because he mentions this terms like it has the direct power to modify our behavior through the
Yes.
use of algorithms, social media, and stuff. So we are interacting with this produce
Yes.
in a, I think, I guess, more personal level. Because in his example of a plow, it is a tool, but there is no it does not have the power to influence us. We are just using the plow to create other goods.
Yes.
But I think this kind of the products created by big tech have a different kind of hold or effect on human beings that the other forms of tools previously did not have.
Yes. I think so. Even other forms of monopoly also doesn't have that kind of control.
Yeah.
I think so. That's what he's trying to say. Maybe. So let's continue and see what else he says,
Mhm.
and then see.
That big tech has
with one another so that we can make good use of the machines rather than become victims.
So I think, an absolute statement that big tech has stolen our autonomy is simply the wrong way to think about it. Let's take a step back for a moment, and I
Let me just make the speed to 1.25. I think that's not too fast.
think that maybe a better way to think about things are in terms of two concepts I'd like to put forward, and that's in terms of trade-offs and responsibilities. So let's start with the first one. When it comes to trade-offs, that's simply asking the question of what do we want and what is the price we're willing to pay for it. And so when it comes to big tech and freedom, the trade-off that's relevant is the trade-off between freedom to and freedom from. So undeniably, tech has bolstered our freedom to do a great many things. Today, we now have unlimited access to information and goods from all over the world. And so tech has really democratized the world's resources to all of us. Also, the ongoing revolution in artificial intelligence promises to boost our ability to do many creative and productive things. So that's really where tech shines. It enables us to do a great many things. Now, of course, the trade-off is that this requires tech to become more embedded in our lives. And so the consequence is that we have a shrinking ability to have freedom from technology, and that's clear in our dependence on technology. We rely on online services like email, maps, and payments, and so it's very hard to imagine how we can fully disconnect from technology. So we can see how technology itself is really kind of navigating this tension between being empowered to do so many things while also possibly being constrained by how technology shapes and limits some of our autonomy. Indeed, we might even often cede autonomy to our tech, right? Because we want it to do some of the work for us. We want to delegate, say, fighting fraud and doing content moderation. And so we see that there is this tension between doing things and letting go of things. And so that brings me to that other point I mentioned, which is about responsibility, right? We want our systems to be built responsibly because we are giving control to them, and not necessarily in a bad way. We want it to do some of the work for us. Now, it's a little bit, of course, vague and open-ended what it means for technological systems to be responsible. So maybe we should look at some examples where things have gone poorly and things are going better. So we can, for example, look at, say, China, which unfortunately uses its technology to do mass surveillance and suppress dissenting views and information.
Whereas in the West, we don't have mass surveillance.
Oh, no, I was going to
You're
say,
surveying the shit out of
my
it.
next line was the West, of course.
Come on. A little bit of
I was trying to be inclusive.
self-awareness here.
East and West. Okay.
Google is surveying us just as successfully as, the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay. Well,
Maybe more successfully. Sorry for the interjection, but I just
okay, there are definitely examples here in the West. I mean, close to home, Cambridge Analytica, right? Privacy breaches, harvesting personal data to do targeted advertising and sway elections. But of course, there are good things about technology and progress being made. We have, for example, GDPR to do as a regulatory agreement to state how we ought to use personal data. And so, well, okay. In the interest of time, what I want to say is technology has trade-offs, right? As I mentioned, it can be used for good and bad, and so we need to think about how to responsibly use technology. Just because, again, it depends on which hands it falls into, and it can be used well or poorly. So that's my position.
I mean,
So, so far, what team is trying to say is that technology has its advantages, which I agree that inherently technology is not bad. Of course, it's not bad. That's the whole reason why something is invented in the first place, to solve a certain kind of problem. Technology is all about the definition of technology is just using the things around us to create equipments to help ourselves. But then it depends upon later on who gets the control over those things and what's the intention behind them. For example, think about YouTube itself. Like it was created by a group of people, and those group of people are no longer in charge of YouTube right now. And the original algorithm, the original purpose was very different from what it is right now. And so yeah, so you again, like YouTube as a platform is definitely beneficial. Like, for example, the people who speak about social media being addictive, to stay away from social media, that concept, it's those things I've learned itself from YouTube itself. So YouTube is teaching me those things. That's the power of YouTube. But then again, who is in control right now? For example, like the thing about ads, the thing about addictive algorithms, because right now it's in power, it's in control of people who want to monetize it, whose sole objective is profit, number one, and everything else depends upon those things. For example, one of the things that I've heard talked about is the uselessness of the search bar in YouTube, which I have experienced firsthand. Like, even if you search for something, like the first few results will be those things, but below that again the recommended videos will come up. I don't know if you have found it or not, but it has happened to me multiple times. So yes, it's all about profit right now. So what team is saying is that it's good, but right now the people who are in control, they want to use this platform as a means to create profits, not for the original purpose that it was created. That's what I think. So do you have any
Yeah,
opinion on this?
yeah. So he was talking about like freedom to do things, because the technology has given us people to freedom to do various things. But here's I think one point they're not talking about here, and I have not done much research regarding these things, so I don't know how exactly it works. But we have to understand like the human psychology itself, first of all, because although we have the freedom to do or learn or be productive, like the potential is infinite right now, but the way it is expressed is, or the way big tech has allowed people to use it is in not the most productive manner. So for example, Instagram or those algorithms are there, they have created the algorithm such that they want you to just stick to their platform. So you have the freedom to do whatever you want with the tech they have given, but practically in real life, how is it being used? Just to scroll reels one after the other. And most, so I think, and again, that is not exactly the fault of big tech also. Like they have created, it is like he said, I think he talked about responsibility. So I think it is your choice. You decide how you should use it. But given, I think they understand human psychology much more than every individual does. So they've created this manipulative algorithm such a way that you cannot escape it if you once get into it. So although the freedom as an ideal in an ideal world it does exist, but they have given us the freedom and at the same time taken away the freedom by manipulating the algorithms in such a way. So I think it's a more complicated thought that I have. So like practically, technically speaking, we do have the freedom, but in practice, it's not really expressed that way. That's what I think.
Yeah, you are right. Means that's what the thing is. For example, uh, as you mentioned, I think what the fault here is the bigger structure that it is. Now, see, if I criticize capitalism, it will sound like I'm a supporter of communism. But the thing is, that is true. Like, for example, the companies are valued upon, so if you want to invest in a company, the valuation comes about is decided upon how your future revenue streams are going to be. And the only way to create these future revenue streams is to come up with ideas like this, which is, what you could do is that maybe like you for YouTube, instead of addictive algorithms and advertisements, you could keep it organic by just giving one-time subscription fee. But you're not going to earn a lot from this. Instead, through ads, you can earn a lot of money. And the only way to show more ads is to keep the user in the platform for as long as possible. And that is only possible by creating addictive algorithms. So this is not profitable. For example, what's more like smartphones? The one of the most useful things that I found about smartphones is maps, because if you go to a new city, you have no idea. But if you have a map, you can find out anything here. But we use maps for free. There's no subscription fee. They don't make money out of it. I don't know how like if even if there was this like a subscription fee, like monthly you pay this much, most people won't pay, or even if they pay, there isn't much. Like you won't earn a lot of money from there. But if you could track the data, a person's behavior, and then use that behavior to create personalized ads, that is much more profitable. So the whole incentive is about being more profitable, and that's the whole incentive structure is like that. So they are just, each and every company is just playing their game. It's not up to them.
Yeah, then talking about this also, I feel like all this talk about data privacy and stuff is like a almost like a necessary evil at this point, because you will not have the convenience that we have today without them using our data to give us ads or whatever purpose they use it for. I don't think they are like intentionally thinking of getting our user data just for malicious intent. They want to monetize their services. So they're giving most of the useful and convenient things for free, but they're using our data in order to be profitable. Without that structure itself, we will not have any of the convenience that we have today.
I don't completely agree about that. I mean, the thing is that, yes, in a way you're correct that they have, as I've said, that in the business, the whole incentive structure, how their business is valued, it's about how to make more money. So they will have to come up with those kind of strategies. Like, yeah, you have to take the ads to make, yes, like you have to take user data to give targeted ads. That's definitely correct. But again, like from a big picture political angle, now they can use this data to then like politicians can shape agendas, because again there are other topics that you can discuss about who owns these companies. If you look at this, a lot of these companies are owned by a very few groups of people, so they can set the agendas anytime about what to tell, what to show, what not to show. In fact, there's a very interesting video that I have. If maybe next time I'll show you. It's just a 1 minute video. You can see there's like a lot of news stations, like TV news channels. They are saying the same exact things, which says means that the control comes from the top, and everything comes like, I'll show you. You'll know that about it, but maybe later on. So I think so. We should continue this one now.
Yeah.
With technology, it
for good and bad. And so we need to think about how to responsibly use technology, just because, again, it depends on which hands it falls into, and it can be used well or poorly. So that's my position.
I mean, with technology, it almost seems like we don't know what is behind the technology and how we're losing autonomy and control. So where are we on that? Are we free to choose?
Well, to avoid speaking in the abstract, let me give you an example. A new app was created, went out 7 months ago in the United States, which is, you can think of it as Uber for nurses. So in the hospital system, where nursing jobs are being denigrated, constantly losing their stature, and they're being casualized, now there's this new app where nurses can get different postings, different days, different hours, different weeks. And this app combines data on particular nurses with their credit history and their credit card debt, so as to, it knows which nurse, male nurse, female nurse, is more desperate for cash on particular days, and reduces the rate offered to him or her during that day. So, then of course, you have Palantir, and you have Microsoft, and you've got Google, and you've got Amazon, who are running today the war machine of Israel, the total surveillance of every Palestinian and every Israeli, actually, in the land of Palestine, of Israel. And in this context, your question, I think, is redundant. Of course, we do not choose which technology. You've got a tiny number of big tech companies which make decisions usually against the views of people working in these companies. So again, I have to mention Google, because Google started quite a few years ago. Remember the motto, do no harm. And I think that most Googlers, and I met quite a few of them, as I was telling Tim at the beginning, I had the privilege of addressing them and giving a speech in their original campus. They were people who were enthusiastic about this idea of producing new services, democratizing the tools and so on. And you saw what happened with Google. Eventually it got into defense procurement, and it went to bed with the IDF in Israel. It bought Wiz. It is working with Elbit in order to weaponize the manner in which migrants are being monitored at the US-Mexican border. So existing malignancies in our political and social sphere are being weaponized by this exorbitant power of machines that have escaped the control of the people who are creating and designing them in these big companies.
Okay, but seriously.
Do you have anything to say?
So one point comes to mind when talking about these kind of things is problem is not exactly the tech or the service. I think it is governance then, or law. I think we can create a parallel to gun laws. For example, it is legal in US itself, it is legal to own guns. But just because it is legal to own gun, you cannot decide to just shoot anyone. Although that happens more often there. But it still is a crime. So similar kind of governance should be there for this kind of data or big tech also. So although it should be allowed to get our data for whatever purpose, but that purpose should be governed such that you cannot just decide to, like the example you gave of the nurse app, you should not be allowed to manipulate people by getting their data in different ways. That is like basically the solution comes down to governance, I think. But again, since the big tech are in such a position of power, they have influence over governance also. So,
Yes.
but the ideal solution would be by law, not the tech
Yes.
itself.
Exactly. That is what I think. Like for a long time, I have been a proponent of, I like the idea of free market capitalism, and I still do like the idea of free market capitalism. But the current situation that we are in, it is not a free market capitalism. So I think the whole concept of free market capitalism is to remove any kind of government intervention, any kind of intervention for on it is all about have free competition. But the problem here is that the big techs are so powerful that they have the control of government on their side. They can make government act in ways that benefits them over the small business owners. So it's skewed in their direction. So I think yes, what you're saying is that in theory, again, it's all about the incentive structure, and and the control that big tech companies have. And I don't know where it is going to head, but if it goes into this trajectory, if it continues to go, then these companies, like private companies, will become more powerful than government itself. And have you seen this series Alien Earth? But
No.
it recently came out. So it's set in the about 100 years from now. So in this world there is no companies. There are no governments. The whole world is ruled by 5 corporations. They own everything. So like businesses are the owners of everything. Like you are an employee or you live in there. Like there's no nations. There's no India, US, anything. There's just 5 corporations that own the whole world. So right now the way that it is, the power that big tech companies is, I can see it's 100 years from now it could really be it could happen, like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and all of, like these 5 companies like can actually be rule the whole world. They can it is possible, something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's see. So we have about 6 minutes. Let's see how much
I mean, look, Google is a very large organization, right? It's almost 200,000 employees globally, so it's almost like a country, right? And given that it's such a
he just mentioned it's almost like a country. I just thought I could talk about it, and he just mentioned
employees globally, so it's almost like a country, right? And given that it's such a large organization, there are kind of different pockets and things like that. So I can only speak from my personal experience, but certainly one of their mottos is respect the user, right? And so I mean, I don't want to focus too much on my own personal experience, but we do undergo constant training of how to, you should never access user data without needing the use case, et cetera, et cetera. So I do, very much feel the ethos of responsible data usage and whatnot. But let me go back to maybe the more global issues. So there's just me as an employee, which I do feel, at least on a day-to-day basis, that I'm not working for like a tobacco company or whatnot. But in terms of back to this bigger question of the role of big tech and the speed at which technology is moving, I mean, let me just take a step back and what I want to say is that in some sense we don't really have that much control over many things. We don't have that much control over the way our food is made, how our clothes are made. And so I think maybe it's good to set the baseline of what it means to have control. So maybe that's one thing I want to say. The world is a very large place, and we really just don't have that much control over anything. So maybe technology is not an exception in that regard. Maybe the other thing I want to say is that at least here in a capitalist society, there is a form of empowerment such that these technology moves quickly, which means that rival companies form all the time. So companies need to make their apps useful for the broader public, because either people will not use them, a rival will open up. And so what I want to say is that, notwithstanding all the negative consequences of capitalism, you do need to make your services useful to people. And there is a kind of public accountability, right? When there are data breaches, when there are failures in the recommendation algorithm, or when LLMs produce bad content, there is a corrective mechanism, right? It's not like a totalitarian society, at least in our society, where no matter how bad things are, it's going to stay that way. Companies do react to bad press, and so I think there is a correcting mechanism.
Tim, you said that people who actually produce the algorithms, they never do it with bad intent. I agree. I'm sure. I mean, there might be some real bastards out there who are designing algorithms with bad intent, but I don't believe there are, and even if they are, they're the exception. But I want to use a particular example of dual-use algorithms. So there are algorithms that have emerged from Google and from others that are the epitome, the apotheosis of the human spirit and achievement. So the fact that we have AI programs which design antibiotics that can kill bacteria that otherwise would have killed people in hospitals. This is great. This is, congratulations, well done. But we have to remember and not forget that the same kind of algorithm has been used by, I won't say anything about, your employer, by Amazon, in order to use whatever data is being collected in Amazon warehouses, because, in Amazon warehouses, workers have one of these things strapped to their wrist as they're going around the business in the Amazon warehouse, taking, packages from here to there. The machine tells them where to go, it monitors them and so on. But it also monitors who they talk to, how the proximity of different workers together, all this data, using the same kind of AI algorithms that design beautiful antibiotics for killing bacteria, the same AI program predicts, it's a mathematical statistical model for predicting the probability that Kathy or Bruce may start a union in one of the particular warehouses. And when that probability estimate exceeds a certain threshold, then either they get fired or that particular warehouse is mothballed. So it's not AI fault. It is the fault of, whether these are rights enhancing technologies or rights annulling technologies. It depends on our labor law, on the extent to which unionization is made possible or effectively undermined through mafia-like behavior of big tech and other companies, whether we understand that these technologies give you exorbitant power if you are the sole owner of it. And if you care about democracy, you can't possibly believe that the people who invent these technologies have the right to have exclusive property rights over them. As I said in that talk that I gave at Google, I said to them, congratulations for having created human rights. Because the right to use the Google search engine when it was really well before AI, it has become almost a human right now. The problem is that if you have invented a human right, you no longer have the right to own it. It needs to be socialized. So socialize big tech.
I feel like tech is not being given enough credit. I mean, just as a show of hands, how many people want to give up Google search, Amazon? Would they really want to go back? I'm just curious.
Did I suggest that?
No.
I suggest we socialize your company in order to use it more productively.
I mean, where would we have been during the pandemic if we didn't have Amazon, Zoom,
Again,
right? I mean,
we want your technology. We do not want the property rights over it by a tiny, tiny minority who use it against the interests of humanity.
okay, so I don't disagree with that. So maybe this goes into this question of digital rights. So I think that absolutely makes sense. I mean, they really are an extension of the right to privacy among other rights, and I don't think, at least here in the Western world.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.
So we have only 1 minute left. So should we continue a little bit?
Yeah, we can.
Like 10 minutes about about the last portion.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your thoughts about what they talked about during the ending?
So I think one point that Tim mentioned was about corrective mechanism. So he said that it's not a totalitarianism at this point. So if there are too much negative feedback regarding any steps big tech have taken, there will be some kind of corrective mechanisms. So they will change some things. So I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure this kind of things have happened. But if it becomes too big, if the big tech is a monopoly, and then in those cases, corrective mechanism is not going to happen. Like any kind of pushback, already there are so many pushback regarding data rights and stuff. But since there's no other alternative, they are still doing what they want. So the corrective mechanism in that aspect is not happening. It will happen when maybe it really affects their revenue in some sense, and there is an alternative that people can go to. So for so long, Chrome was not doing anything. Not Chrome, I mean Google search to improve themselves. But as soon as there's some alternative showed itself in terms of Perplexity or ChatGPT and anything, then they started to think what could be improved, their AI search and all of those things. So corrective mechanism is there, but it is very selective, and it's no guarantee it will happen all the time. Like in a way, the power still is with them, and we are like they are our masters. We are assuming that they will be kind to us. That if we complain that something they've done is not good for us, then they will change. But it's not guaranteed, is what I think.
Yes. And about corrective mechanisms, another thing that I would like to add is certain things. Like for example, in case of training AI, it is very capital extensive. Just no one can just come up with a AI. Suppose we don't like we don't like OpenAI, we don't like Gemini. No one can just create an LLM in their garage. it requires a
Mm.
lot of money. So we don't have a lot of option. Like you will have to, if you want to use AI, you have to use their AI or just not use it at all. So there isn't much corrective, a lot of alternative there. And since they are capital intensive, speaking about options, and I would like to say that there is an illusion of options out here because just a while ago I mentioned that a lot of things are actually owned by very few companies, and one of the companies that are new is Anthropic here. But Anthropic, the investors in Anthropic, I think Amazon is a huge investor in Anthropic, and I'm not sure whether Google or Microsoft. Let me see in Google. Like someone has, I don't know, it was Google or Microsoft. Let me see. Maybe, uh, yes, Google and Anthropic announced cloud deal. So if Anthropic is a direct competitor of Google's AI, so what's the point of Google helping its competitor? So it's not actually at the highest level. It's not exactly a competitor at all. Like expanding our
Mm.
Google. So you are using Google, so you are dependent on Google. So if someone doesn't like Gemini, says that Gemini is boring, we'll use Anthropic. Does it matter? At the end of the day, Google is getting their money, so it doesn't matter because they're so big, they own so many things. So
Mhm.
for them, they're getting the revenue. So that doesn't matter. And let me just look at this a little bit once more because I forgot some of it.
I'm not getting sound.
Yes.
Tim, you said that people
Now,
Yeah.
who actually produce the algorithms, they never do it with bad intent. I agree. I'm sure. I mean, there might be some real bastards out there who are designing algorithms with bad intent, but I don't believe there are, and even if they are, they're the exception. But I want to use a particular example of dual use algorithms. So there are algorithms that have emerged from Google and from others that are the epitome, the apotheosis of the human spirit and achievement. So the fact that we have AI programs.
yes, I remember what he's trying to say here. That he was giving an example of like AI using AI to create proteins like health using healthcare, curing cancer, or maybe at least curing a lot of diseases. Those are the good uses of AI, and he's commending them. That's a good thing. But again, AI. Then he mentions the example of AI using AI algorithms to detect patterns of employees and see if uh, they have a tendency to form a union.
Mhm.
So the whole idea of a union is to fight for your own rights, a legal way to do that. So if they can see the pattern within their employees, that okay, the kind of behavior what we can see in this employee is that he is more likely to encourage other people to form and create an uh, uh, union. So let's fire him. It's almost like that movie Minority Report, like where they uh, uh, see patterns and accuse people of crime before even doing it. They arrest them. It's a movie. Tom Cruise is there. So yeah. So they detect like the probability. Okay, this we know that this bad person is going to commit a crime. So let's arrest him before he even commits a crime. Those
Mhm.
kind of things. So again, the underlying algorithm is the same. Like this AI algorithms are all about detecting patterns and to predict future, those kind of things. But how you use it. So again, technology inherently is not bad, but the users, the intent they have. So here the concept is that if you unionize, then you will have to uh, you have to you'll have to be answerable to the employees more than without a union. So it's all about
Mhm.
having this control, this power in themselves. And if you have this, uh, uh, and so you're driven by greed and power, and so you're using this algorithm to gain what you want to do. So that's the thing that he's highlighting, and which is not a good thing.
Yeah. So again, my mind is going to the example of gun laws. So guns are used for both good and bad. So like, and what is bad is clearly stipulated in the law, or for the most part. You cannot just take a gun and shoot someone you don't like or someone who is acting against you, or other than self-defense. There, like, it's not one-to-one similarity, but the principle is that the tool is existing, but the law is governed in such a way that it can be used for good in some situations, and if it is used for bad, it is then a crime, and it is legally, you are, whatever the process is there. So those kind of similar situations should happen here. So AI is being used for creating all this biological research and stuff. That should be allowed, and it should be governed that you are not using that same AI to do surveillance of your own employees and stopping them from any kind of forming unions and stuff. That clearly should be stipulated in the law that it is illegal for you to have that much control. So again, I think the solution is not in the tech, but again in the governance of the tech.
Yeah. So talking about governance, I think this is an age-old problem. I think so. This is since the I think so beginning of human history. This is the problem, and towards the end, the final section, he mentions this his solution. And
Mm.
even on a personal level, I do not completely agree. Let's hear about it again before I talk about it.
which design anti-warehouses, and when that probability
So here it talks about.
property rights over them. As I said in that talk that I gave in, at Google, I said to them, congratulations for having created human rights. Because, the right to use the Google search engine when it was really well before AI, it has become almost a human right now. The problem is that if you have invented a human right, you no longer have the right to own it. It needs to be socialized.
Okay. Here he gives the solution. He talked about governance. What he's saying is that, okay, you have created this great technology, but this suppose take an example of YouTube. Suppose a few people, the original people are not there anymore. I mean, they are alive, but they don't own it anymore. But suppose, uh, like if a company owns this algorithm, but YouTube is, I think so, it's the gateway to the to free education, or like education and knowledge and awareness to the world. So it's a great thing. But the fact that Google or Alphabet owns this and they can monetize it, but they and not just monetize it, they can use it as a tool of manipulation by controlling people's what people can see, what they can't see through the algorithms, and to shape people's perception. It is so powerful. And Yanis says that no, since YouTube is such an important thing, you should not own it. You have to socialize it. Like no company should own this thing. It should become like a government-owned thing. That's what he's suggesting. That's the whole concept of socializations, and that's the whole fight between communism and socialism throughout the world, mostly in the Western world. And the more I think, and personally, I it uh, I kind of don't agree with it. I don't have any definitive opinion on this, because on the one hand it sounds good, but again from a personal perspective it looks kind of if what if I was a owner of YouTube, for example, consider DTE. Suppose someday it becomes very big and very influential, like you said, okay, this kind of discussions are opening people's mind, and it is becoming very influential. So Rohan, you can no longer own this thing now, because you'll have the power to shape people's agenda. So will I be comfortable to just give up? I don't think so. I won't be comfortable, because where were you when I was building all those things? You weren't there, like the social people I'm saying. Where was society when I was building this thing? You weren't there. But now that I'm successful, this is successful. Now you want to take it away from me. I'm not giving this thing. I build it and I'll have control over it. So the owners of Google, the owners of any big companies, the owners of Apple, why would they think about giving this thing? So there's the dilemma here. So I don't have any specific answers about this, but I think I get the point from a capitalist perspective. Like when we were building this, when the struggle was there, you weren't there to help us. No one was there. We struggled to build the thing. But now that it is successful, they're saying, okay, give it to us now. I don't know. Like that's what I disagree with the communist or socialist perspectives. Uh, yeah, but then again, the people who have power, if their intent is malicious, yes. So I don't have a definitive answer right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I also am not sure what the correct solution here would be, uh, but socialism or socializing the company sounds better in regards to in here because right now we are at the mercy of the person who owns it. If he is a
Yeah.
good person or if he has good intention, then it's all good. But it requires just one bad person to be involved to ruin it for everyone. So
Yes.
one person can influence all of humanity to be impacted.
Mm.
So if if there's thing like this that has so much potential for influence, then maybe socializing it is the best option available. Because then we are like from your perspective, like as you said about DT, it is fair to say that I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to give it away is affecting the entire population of Earth. So at that point, you really should not have the power to you are possible almost like a godman. Why should you have the power to decide what everyone else, the fate of every human being should be?
Yeah. But yeah, I
So
think
yeah, as an individual person, the idea doesn't seem correct, but as the consumer
mm,
and for my own interest, I think it is better if it is socialized.
I think so. And so yeah, like if you look at the greater good from a bigger picture, yes, I also agree that that is the uh, better thing to do. But again, honestly,
But then
I
also one other point is that then there will be no innovation. But
yes, that
for
is
things like YouTube, there's no need for like what are you going to innovate? It's just a video sharing platform that is big
yeah,
enough.
yeah,
So that can be socialized. For example, AI, at this point, AI should not be socialized because if each company is putting their own effort in innovating in their own ways and bringing different features. At this point, if you socialize any of the AI companies, the progress is done. There's not
yeah,
going to be any more progress. But YouTube has been stagnant. Like it's the same thing. All UI changes, small features here and there.
yeah,
The core service is the same.
yeah,
The only difference is that it's big enough that the entire world consumes YouTube.
yes. And yes, I agree. I mean, for the greater good of the world, something like YouTube could be should be socialized so that it remains free. It remains a more of a educational or a more like people should be in charge, not the algorithms. But I also thinking from the owner's perspective. Let's assume that YouTube is an independent company and I own YouTube. And since it's such a popular platform, I earn revenues and money. So I'm definitely not going to go down without a fight. Like I won't say, okay, I'm a billionaire. I'm just going to give away. I'll just live like a normal person and give away this $1 billion revenue earning company to this world. I will lobby. I'll pay the politicians, governments. Like, come on, just do something that it doesn't happen. And in reality, like most people will try to do those things. Like whoever is in charge, whoever owns those things. And that is why I think so it's going to be a big topic, but in short, that's what I'm going to say is that overall there's this big uh, like socialist and capitalist, they do not like each other because their whole ideology is completely different. And the Western world, especially the US, is mostly a capitalist country. Their whole philosophy runs around that thing, and that is why so, the word communism is such a taboo word in there in the US because I was watching this series, Last of Us. So in the first season, his brother, whoever this person was, what's his name? I forgot.
Joel.
Joel. His brother lives in this. Initially he thought he was dead, but maybe he was living in some other community in some place. So that small community was very much like a socialist communist community, like everybody contributed and so on and those things. So so he didn't mention this one. So Joel asked his brother, okay, how does this community work? He said, okay, we share our food and those things. Then Joel said, oh, so this is like a communist or socialist, it's like a communist society. So then his brother replied, I would not like to call it a communist society. We're just looking out for each other. So since this is US, that is a communist society, but they are so the word is so taboo around there. They just don't want to say it out. That's what's happening. And actually, maybe in our next video, I'll we can discuss about, because there's a video that talks about how communism was, or socialist communism was created as a taboo word. It was a deliberate marketing plan. Because at the time there was this battle going on between Soviet Union and US, and there's a whole that's a big story in and of itself. So we might discuss it later on. But yes, socialists and capitalists are against each other. So the whole objective and agenda of capitalists is to have as much control over their companies as possible, and to do that they will try to have control over people in government as well, so that the policies are in their favor and not in the favor of socialists who wants to take away from them. So it is going to be a hard fight to keep away and socialize big companies as much as they would want to. Anything else do you want to say?
No.
Okay, I think so we can end this one and something. Okay, for today, I think so we can end this one.